How does institutionalized racism in schools affect students? I derived this question from my book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This memoir follows the life of Maya, a young black girl growing up in the 1930s. She was extremely bright for her age and realized early on that life wasn't fair for people who looked like her. On page 180, she states that we were maids and farmers, handymen and washerwomen, and anything higher that we aspired to was farcical and presumptuous. Maya knows that she has almost no chance at becoming successful in a world that despises black people. This quote made me think about America's racism today. It's definitely not as rampant as it was in the 30s, but it still occurs. This then made me wonder, how is it affecting American students of color? I decided to do some research and find out. In an article by Casey Quinlan for thinkprogress.org, it is revealed that in many schools, black historical figures are often disregarded in their discoveries and impacts. Quote, black students are also expected to stay engaged and interested in courses that don't recognize the reality of their lives, and don't cover the contributions of black political leaders and artists as often as those of white historical figures. This fact reminded me of a quote that Maya spoke at her 8th grade graduation. She is angry because an official told the graduating class to aim for lower status jobs as opposed to white collar jobs. The white kids were going to have a chance to become Galileos and Madame Curies and Edisons and Gangwins, and our boys, the girls weren't even in on it, would try to be Jesse Owenses and Joe Lewises. Owens and the Brown Bomber were great heroes in our world. But what school official in the white Gotham of Little Rock had the right to decide that those two men must be our only heroes? Who decided that for Henry Reed to become a scientist, he had to work like George Washington Carver, as a bootblack, to buy a lousy microscope? Bailey was obviously too small to be an athlete, so which concrete angel glued to what county seat had decided that if my brother wanted to become a lawyer, he had to first pay penance for his skin by picking cotton and hoeing corn and studying correspondence books at night for 20 years? Angela 179. In both time periods, back then and now, black youth and youth of color in general are being discouraged from entering respectable fields of work, instead being pushed towards jobs requiring less education and skill. Children should be taught that being white is not the only way to become successful. If historical figures of color were more widely appreciated and celebrated, it would show students that anybody, regardless of race, is capable of making history.